Aho, ni gatugo sisi mikjijebit deluisi, ni migamawisk. I just shared with you, as all of you here know, in our language, our Mi'kmaq language, that my spirit name is Thunderbird Turtle Woman, and I'm Mi'kmaq. I'm so very happy to be invited here in my own community. And I just want to explain, just before the prayer, just a little bit about the spiritual component of this day. Now it is called National Indigenous Day.
Donna, tell me what it means to you to take part in National Indigenous Peoples Day.
All of our people, Indigenous people, we have a connection to this land. Everywhere we walk in North America, what we call Turtle Island, are the remains and the ashes of the ones who went before us. So we always honor our ancestors. And so today, being here in my own community, every June 21st, I'm invited at different places. It gives me pride to know that a lot of our young people are learning about our ways. We're reclaiming our heritage. We certainly have a lot to offer to this world. So many different things that are not even written about. For example, our respect for elders. We have a profound respect for the elders. They're the ones that carry that wisdom, that unconditional love, the language, and they hand that down to the next generations. They have earned the right to speak because they have lived that life of experience. And we also very vehemently love and honor our children, and because they are the future generation. They are the most sacred gifts from the Creator. So on this day we give thanks for our children and the yet unborn. And we're told as Indigenous people that when important decisions are to be made, we're to think 7 generations ahead, not just in this generation, how it's going to affect this generation, but to think 7 generations down the line, so that the next generation, our descendants, can enjoy this beautiful land, can still have safe water to drink, can still, go on the rivers and fish, and still have clean air to breathe, still have trees. So now I'm going to offer that prayer to the Creator, and then to the spirits of the 4 directions, starting in the east, the children, where we think about and give thanks for the children and the yet unborn. Then I will offer that prayer to the south direction, the direction of the women. We give thanks and pray for all the women. Then I will offer that prayer to the west direction, the direction of our ancestors. And so today, all over the world, people are praying. The Arva Looking Horse, Chief Arva Looking Horse from Greengrass, South Dakota, he's the 19th generation keeper of this, of the original sacred pipe that Buffalo Calf Woman brought. And he is the one that received this vision. He received the vision to start this day and to call it World Peace and Prayer Day. And now it is National Indigenous Day. And it is celebrated by everyone across the land to remember, to talk about the achievements and successes of the first people. When you think back in history, if it wasn't for our ancestors standing at the shorelines with our hands extended in friendship, the newcomers would not have survived. The ones that did arrive, many were dying of scurvy and rickets. They were sick, they were very ill. And so our ancestors, first of all, we shared their medicinal tea. It's still our way to share our tea. And with our relatives, with whoever comes, and then our food. And then they shared their knowledge of how to live in this new land. And so because of that, here in New Brunswick, we are covered by the peace and friendship treaties, where our ancestors agreed to live side by side in peace and friendship. So I always remind people that we are all treaty people, because treaties were signed nation to nation. And what makes it even more stronger for us and a bigger responsibility is that every treaty that was signed or was agreed upon, our ancestors included ceremony.
What does National Indigenous Peoples Day mean to you, Tegan?
It makes me proud to be who I am as an Indigenous person, but it's not just today, that's every day.
What does that mean to you as Chief of Elsipogtog?
That means to us as leadership. It's basically a beginning. It's an opportunity for the rest of Canadians to understand who we are as people. It starts that conversation. I guess it's an opportunity for us to show who we are in a more positive light.
It's very important for everybody. I think, with the Truth and Reconciliation that we just went through, I think, it's an excellent opportunity for us to promote and our culture, our community, and to open the doors for other local or surrounding areas to come and witness our special day today.
As an Indigenous woman and youth, it's very uplifting to see our community and our people coming together to celebrate our culture, our traditions, and our stories. I've been to many reserves all over the Maritimes growing up. I got to see everybody else's celebrations and how their culture celebrates, and it's a beautiful sight to see people coming together for that reason.
And so we should all be able to speak the language that was gifted to us by the Creator. We should all be able to practice the way that the Creator gave to us. We don't impose our values and our ways on other races. We offer our culture. We invite people to our ceremonies. We invite people to come in to hear our teachings.
Kenneth, today is National Indigenous Peoples Day.
Right.
What does that mean to you?
To me personally, I think it's I'm Indigenous 365 days a year, and so it's a good day for celebration, and a good day of recognition by the settlers that actually we do still exist, and I appreciate their overture to let us know that they acknowledge that we exist.
So as an Elsipogtog storyteller, what sort of role or responsibility does that mean for you?
Well, to me, I learn about stories. My mom used to tell me legends, and those legends contain a lot of teachings. She actually was training me to be a badu. A badu is a knowledge keeper to carrying knowledge to stories, and that's what she was training me for. My memory, she was training my memory to be exact, because we're from an oral tradition and nothing was ever written down, so that the history that was being stored or kept had to be precise, and it had to be exact every time it was retold.
National Indigenous Peoples Day is, of course, part of Truth and Reconciliation. What does that mean to you?
Again, it's it's an opportunity for the rest of Canada to learn about our culture, learn about our people, and try to better understand why we do what we do.
Describe some of the events happening here in Elsipogtog today.
Yep, so today we were having a very fun gathering. We're going to be having free food for community members. We're going to be doing draft softball tournament. We're going to be doing water toss tournaments, ladder ball tournaments. We're going to have over 20 vendors set up at the Craft Hockeyville Arena parking lot. We're going to have a mini powwow and bouncy castles for all the youth.
Thank you. Our main means of travel were those rivers and the streams.
So the next question I wanted to ask you, right behind you is the monument for the survivors of the residential schools. When you walk near it, when you drive by it, when you look at it, what does it make you think?
Immediately, it makes me think we are still here. We are resilient. We've been hurt. There's been so many injustices imposed, especially on innocent little children. And there's a lot of intergenerational trauma, but we're still here. We're still celebrating our culture. We're still celebrating who we are because the Creator placed us here. And when He placed us here, He also gave us certain protections. So we will never forget the children of residential school. My dad was a residential school survivor. From the age of 16, he just lived a little ways from here. Him and his two brothers. His older brother was 8 years old. His younger brother was 4 years old. He was 6. Their parents had died, and their uncle took them in and his wife. And the Indian agent came, backed up by the RCMP, and they forcefully took them. Told their uncle, would be my great uncle, that if you try to stop us, we'll put you in jail. And so he was there from the age of 6 till 16. He ran away, and he lied about his age, and he joined the army, the last part of World War II. So he would rather go into a war than to remain in a school so horrible. And so we will never, ever forget those children. We always honor them. We remember them. And we know now they're in the spirit world in that beautiful place.
Do you have any relatives who were there? And if so, did you hear stories?
I do hear a lot of stories from those that did attend, I guess in my role as chief. So I hear the stories. Some are quite horrendous, and it's, you know, it makes you think, how can people do things like that, I guess, to other individuals, and whether it be Indigenous or non-Indigenous or immigrants or whatever the case may be. It's just quite horrific to hear some of those stories firsthand and what they've gone through.
How does it make you feel when you drive by the monument?
It hurts. It hurts knowing that this happened. But again, you know, we cannot continue to hold on to that. We need to learn from it, everybody, and educate ourselves to make a better living society.
Did you hear horror stories from your father when he told you about being in the residential school? Or perhaps he didn't want to talk about that?
Yes, many people couldn't share a lot of the horror stories. They were told that if you go out when you leave here and if you share any of this, we're going to get you, or you'll go to hell. You know, so they lived in fear, and they held that trauma in for generations, and until the Truth and Reconciliation Commission started by Justice Murray Sinclair. And they brought the residential school survivors, the ones that could go, the ones that could even begin to think about it, because some couldn't even go. They brought them together across the land. And even though they didn't know one another, and they had gone to totally different residential schools across the land, one thing they had in common was the abuse that they had gone through. And so they did a ceremony, and then they did a talking circle where everything is shared in confidence, and they felt safe to share. One by one within that circle, they shared, and they said they just sobbed. Some people sobbed, some screamed, because they've been holding that trauma in for years, you know. And with that there's a lot of social problems, a lot of drinking to forget about those things, you know. But then slowly our people started going back to the sweat lodge. Our people, when those ceremonies started to come back to us, our people started to sober up and to remember who they are.
I think, you know, we're all affected. We're all related in this community. Whatever happens to one individual, it affects the whole community. It's that's the way it always has been. So, you know, we're all affected. Yes, it is acknowledged, and this is something that, you know, it's a lesson. We have that behind us now. We need to develop and create a more open approach to working relationships with other organizations so that we are able to develop a comfortable and safe community.
And now we're really celebrating who we are, and yeah, so it's left a legacy of really sad legacy of despair and a lot of intergenerational trauma. Look at jails, prisons, loaded. They're just packed with people that have experienced that intergenerational trauma. But we're slowly healing. We're slowly healing. And you know, Orange Shirt Day, when that is celebrated, all across the land, our children are learning about this because many didn't even know that residential schools existed.
It's a very hard subject to talk about. I was fortunate enough to have my grandparents not attend residential schools. They're my knowledge keepers, and I've got to learn so much from them. And just to see the history behind everything and how generational trauma has come and affected community members and our community, it's really hard to talk about.
What does that monument mean to you?
I recognize that as a step forward, because I remember the time when I wasn't allowed to speak Mi'kmaq. I lived in town. I went to town, and I was beat up 3 or 4 times every time I went. So, you know, it's a far advancement of where we have been able to be recognized. We've come a long way. So every little step that I see, I recognize it.
It's hard to forget what happened, but our people are beginning to forgive. Absolutely. We know that we have to forgive to move on, and now people are coming together, allyship, you know, building relationships. It still hurts, but the truth. But before reconciliation, truth and reconciliation, you have to hear the truth first. The truth comes first, and people have to feel it in here.
So you've been chief here now at Elsipogtog for a few years. Describe your community.
I've been chief of Elsipogtog for the last 11 years. We've come a long way. It's through hard work and basically coming together, realizing that the only way we can move our community forward is coming together and setting aside some of our differences. So, you know, we've learned to master that, I guess, and then we've moved our community ahead.
So as chief of Elsipogtog, what are some of the new economic plans or new programs that will happen here at Elsipogtog?
So as part of leadership, we continuously strive to make our community, I guess, an economic driver. You know, being where we're situated here in Kent County, it's quite difficult, and we don't have the same opportunities as some of our sister communities do when they're closer to urban areas. So in that sense, we have to create our own economy here within, and how we do that is basically we nurture private business, those who start businesses, but we also invest into our own band-owned entities as well.
What are some of those entities?
There's a pharmacy there. It's a PharmaSave, but it's the first Indigenous owned and operated pharmacy here in Canada that's 100% owned by a band. The grocery store there, which we have partnered up with Loblaw in terms of a supplier, and we own that 100%. We also have the NB liquor outlet there. There's also a gaming facility, as well as a historical cultural center where people, you know, tourists can come in and learn about our culture. Another one of our businesses, and I guess it would be our flagship business, is McGraw Seafood, which is located in Tracadie, New Brunswick. Essentially, it's a 100% owned and operated snow crab processing facility. It's a big part, I guess, of our programming here in Elsipogtog, whereby we take a lot of the profits that we generate from that business, and we subsidize governmental programs that we have here in Elsipogtog.
How many people would be employed in the snow crab industry from Elsipogtog?
We have about 600 to 700 employees in total. That would include the fishers out on the water, the unloaders at the wharves, people at the processing plant, in transportation, and generally all the way around.
So, Everett, with the 5 years that you played NHL hockey, what was it like for you as a First Nations person to play NHL hockey with the Chicago Blackhawks?
Yeah, I felt really honored and privileged to be able to step on the ice. I didn't play for my last name. I played for my people, my community. It was all Indigenous athletes. And you know, for them to realize that, you know, dreams happen, things happen with the right support, you know, anything, you can do anything. And I think, you know, this is why I'm back in this community, is to share this experience with the youth and the people so that they're aware of what's out there and that it's not that bad out there. It's really a lot of great people out there that are willing to help and help with your dreams as well.
Tell me about your best day playing NHL hockey.
My best day would be the signing of my contract. My dad was able to fly up to Chicago just to view the signing, and then flew, surprisingly, I wasn't aware of this, and then flew back the same day after I signed. So that is a very memorable, and really I'll hold that for the rest of my life.
Can I ask you about your worst day in the NHL?
I think there's days that's a very, very emotional game. I feel that when I had my spinal fusion done, I had a back operation. It was a career ending, and I was 25 years old. I felt neglected. I felt abandoned, with no support after the fact. So that's the only thing, really, the bad experience that I had is there's no follow-up. After I was done, it was very, very, I felt disheartening to not follow up and see how my well-being, my mental state was.
What are some of the stories that are told here at Elsipogtog?
One of them that I remember specifically is like Elsipogtog, they were asked to make snowshoes for the army. And actually, when they made the snowshoes for the army, like after they sold them, the army was just waiting for the first snowfall to really attack the Mi'kmaq people. And so when the first snowfall came, the army was well prepared to chase them and pursue them. But in a day, because of warm weather and the nice sunshine, it all disappeared, and my people were able to get away. Now that's where the Indian summer comes from.
So Everett, you're soon going to be releasing and publishing a book called My Story.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about your book.
Basically, it's just sharing what I endured during my career, leaving from the community all the way to today, where I am and why I'm back here to my community.
How does it feel to be back home in Elsipogtog?
I love it, and with my position right now as a counselor, band counselor, it gives me an opportunity to help people.
We've always had each other's backs, and if one person is down, we're gonna bring you up with us.